everybody, and welcome to Tremco Live, where we're socially distant but technically connected. I am Marcy Tyler, the Director of Building Science for Tremco and one of your hosts for our broadcast.
And I'm Paul Hogenboom. I'm your other host. I'm the president of Tremco Construction Products Group, Marcy, a tremendous collection of companies, products, brand systems, and of course, most of all people, our own internally, and of course, all our partners out there.
Exactly. It gives us a great privilege to be able to get up in front of all of you on Fridays to be able to talk to you about different industry trends, different challenges, and this month is no exception. So welcome to November, Paul.
Yeah, this is one heck of a trend that's going on.
Yes.
Right? It's been with us for a long time, but the rate of acceleration these last couple of years has been spectacular.
Absolutely, yes. So if you aren't aware, we are going to be focusing on panelization in the month of November. So every Friday in November, correction, the first 3 Fridays in November, we will be talking about panelization. And as Paul mentioned, obviously this is not new, but it's certainly something that people are talking about. Prefabrication, offsite construction is certainly a hot topic.
Yeah, and I think there's so many of the trends, especially, and COVID really accelerated that, labor availability. And of course, I think we always talk too about climate windows are getting much more volatile, so the ability to construct year round, right? So the things that have happened the last couple of years and are with us, Marcy, they're really driving everybody towards efficiency.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's a variety of different reasons and why we are here today, and I think they all are valuable and viable for construction projects as we see them. We're excited about the topic this month for the reasons Paul mentioned, right? Because of things people are seeing in terms of weather windows, right? The skilled workers and things that we need help with in terms of installation practices, but also just being able to bring to you a solution that you're going to see and hear so much about in terms of its durability, its functionality. So you're not compromising in any way by doing offsite construction.
Don't forget aesthetics.
Aesthetics, yes.
We've already had some fantastic stories about where panels allow you to do certain design things you can't do any other way.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that aspect. We touched on it, I think, last week as well, just that ability that we can now talk to you all about aesthetics too, right? So what you're going to see today is not only can you accomplish a lot with panelization, prefabrication, offsite construction, but we aren't going to limit in terms of what it can actually look like aesthetically. So improvement aesthetics, improvement energy, efficiency, and once again, the durability of your structure, because in many ways we may be solving some of the issues you've had in the past in terms of air and water management on your structure.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of innovation too, Marcy. So I think in the months and the next couple of years to come, I really look forward to sharing with everybody our rate of innovation on panelization.
Absolutely.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, maybe be able to get out to those sites as well as those panelizer shops in order to really show that right up front. So in lieu of that, of being able to go out on a job site or even going to a panelizer today, we do have 2 experts and colleagues of ours that are joining us to be able to talk through just that, this whole panelization series. So at this point, I'd love to invite Rick Bunting and Mike Barker to Tremco Live. There you are.
How's everybody today?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us. What a great series you guys will be able to put on with us in the month of November. So welcome. Rick, you are a returnee to the broadcast, but tell us about yourself and your industry experience.
I started working in the EIFS industry in 1974. Worked on my first panel job in 1979. Formerly worked for Dryvit back in the 80s as a regional sales manager, and then left and worked in the panel industry for several fabricators in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, and came back to work for Dryvit 5 years ago to work on their revitalization of their panel effort, and now currently the senior program manager for offsite solutions.
Great. I love that, offsite solutions, because they indeed are. Welcome, Rick. And how about you, Mike Barker? Welcome to Tremco Live.
Oh, thank you for having me. So excited to be a part of this. So I'm actually the sales director for Offsite Solutions. So my career started in the modular business. So I've been in the construction industry for about 20 years. So I started off in modular construction, did custom single family, light commercial, and then multifamily modular. And then came over to the Tremco team about 6 years ago, and have been part of the Tremco team working on that as a regional manager, and moved into this position. So excited to be part of this team.
That's great. It looks like you both have experience in the industry and started off your careers in a modular aspect. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and again, to the people who think it's new, I think we've got maybe over 50 years of collective panelization experience with us today.
Exactly. So you've seen changes, you've seen things, evolve, you've seen innovation. So we certainly look forward to hearing from you. I think we've got a few slides to tell our story, so I'll go ahead and pull those up right now. And we're going to do just that. Talk to you a little bit about the history of panelization here with our dialogue. So we'll let the guys tell the story. So let's take it away. History of panelization. Rick, so what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I thought I'd throw together a couple of slides where we could kind of look at the use of EIFS on panels and Dryvit on panels over the years, and then talk a little bit about the current state of Dryvit's Modulite program. And then also we'll take a look-see at the Metalite panel, which is one of the panels in the Modulite program.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is one of the earliest panel projects that was that utilized our system and light gauge steel studs and sheathing. It was a hotel at the Circus Casino in Las Vegas. It was done in 1972, 1973. It's really interesting because when I was a kid, I was going out with a girl whose father was a plastering contractor, and he used to get walls and ceilings. And I remember reading the article about how they were doing this job, and I was absolutely fascinated by it. And it kind of led to my interest in prefabrication throughout my career. So you can see this job. This was, we can take a look at the next slide, Marcy.
Sure. That's interesting, Rick. I didn't know that you had that early understanding or intrigue, I guess, from this.
Yeah, this gentleman that I worked for, that's how I got into the industry. He was quite an innovator himself. We used to do foam panels back then, which we didn't have any type of reinforcement in them, but it was an early introduction to prefabrication of EIFS. So this is just pictures of the building being done back then, and then as it stands now, it's still pretty much it's functioning well and still up there. So it's an interesting looking project. You can see the next one.
It's interesting to see the landscape around the building, right? That certainly has changed.
Yeah, a little less.
It's crazy now. I mean, you go to Vegas and it's just obviously so different and very interesting. And we'll have a slide later on, but the majority of the casinos done in Vegas on the Strip are all prefabricated. This was a project in the Northeast. It was done, I believe, in 1975 or 76 by H. Carr, who was one of the very early Dryvit contractors, and they had this large trip tower project in New Bedford, and it was going to be done in the wintertime, which was always the major push for people to use panelization in the Northeast because we have temperature restrictions. So this was one that was done, and I pulled this old case study that we had in the files, and you can take a look a little bit at the progress of how the project was done. You can see the next slide, Mars.
I love the picture of Maggie. I have to point out Maggie the penguin. She wasn't as svelte as she is today. So
yeah, we had
out a little
a redo. What would you call that? A new makeup of Maggie. Now we have slender Maggie. Funny.
Guys sitting at a training class, and one had Maggie original and Maggie newer, and I was like, oh. She went to CrossFit Maggie.
These panels for Trip Tower were actually built on the site. They didn't set up a panel plant. They used an outrigger from each floor. and picked the panels and brought them into place. They installed the frames on the panels on the floor, and then picked them into place and glazed them after they were hung. We can see in the next slide, we'll have a section and show you. And it's really interesting that the design for panelization has not changed much today from what we did back then. We used a clip system that attached to the face or top of the slab, and then the panels were hung off of the clips. Dead load was picked up there, and then they had a rotation connection from panel to panel. And we used, as you can see in this, which I thought was really interesting, we used Tremco dimeric sealant and back then in primer on these panels, and that was 75. So we've been working with Tremco for a very long time, and that was when we were both independent from RPM.
That's true. That's true. It's some good history there too.
Yeah. Finished project or in process, getting close to finish, and very, very interesting to see these old faces. I know these guys for, oh God, 40 years now, 40 plus years. It's hard to think about that. All of those gentlemen there are gone, no longer with us, but they were innovators in the plaster drywall industry. So good to have known them. Go to the next slide, Mars. This was a project that we worked on in the 80s. GE was awarded a contract to build what was called the Factory of the Future, which was very interesting. They wanted to do everything with modern construction techniques at that time. They were building a fully automated turbine engine factory in Lynn, Massachusetts. So we made the panels up, and this was done by a company called Engineered Wall Systems in Lincoln, Rhode Island. So we made the panels, and this was way before we had the fancy hot wire cutting equipment. I can remember working with them and laying out the logo and cutting it with a knife and an overhead projector on the wall of their conference room. So just kind of funny to see how things have progressed.
Yeah, speaking of how things progress, Paul, there's a guy in this picture that
Yeah, my hair was dark and my beard was too. but yeah, I show that to my kid now and tell them that at one time I did have dark hair. So.
I love seeing types of old pictures. It's great to see the history, and I love the fact that it was the factory of the future. You know.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was an interesting slide. So
I love that.
Take a look and see these are the panels being done and getting ready to be loaded onto the trailers and shipped off to the site. They're obviously very old pictures that we copied slides of. So forgive the quality of the photographs, but give you a good example. And this is the panels hung, and the crew that did it from Engineered Walls. So the gentleman that ran Engineered Walls was actually Dryvit's first vice president of their technical department, and he also was a big lover of panels, and he left Dryvit to begin Engineered Walls. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing too. And we talk often now, and it's just back then we pulled teeth to get people to be interested in panels, unless it was a weather motivated decision. For the most part, they did work in place. And now, as Paul mentioned earlier, the trend is just leaning towards prefabrication and people realizing the need for speed and the lack of skilled manpower in the field. So it's really come a long way, and it's great to see it happen finally.
Great. I love that you're providing the history of it. It's great. Oh, here you go, more in Vegas.
So these are Vegas, obviously the Bellagio and Caesars. Just amazingly huge projects, and Caesars continues to add buildings onto that location. It's really, like you mentioned before, you just look at the strip, and I don't think you could see behind the Bellagio without seeing a high rise now. So it's kind of cool to see old Vegas pictures like that. And the majority of everything in Vegas is done in panels. And the other thing is that there are no panel plants in Las Vegas. Because they have that great weather, they'll just set up a laydown area in a parking lot and build the panels right there. So you'll see that they use very, very large panels, because that's the biggest problem with shipping, with getting large panels on a job site is the shipping. So doing it this way enables them to make extraordinarily large panels that they can lift in place and put in place. We'll go on to the next. And again, the casino industry has really embraced panelization over the years. The majority of the casinos across the country are done with prefabrication because obviously drying in a building, getting it done and ready for interior trades and begin to generate revenue as quickly as possible is the biggest motivator for the casino industry. So from Atlantic City to Missouri to California to Nevada, you'll see the majority of those casinos are all prefabricated.
Awesome. I think in one of our slides later on, in a future segment, we'll show even Boston too, right? Like you said.
Yes. Yep, we have that. I'm not sure if it's in this one, but in the one on our Outside panelization. So they're just some old articles on the use of prefabricated panels and architects beginning to take note of it. This project on the right is one in Newport, Rhode Island, where we used a panel called Federlite. This was when Dryvit began their Tech 21 program in the mid 80s, which had introduced a couple of new types of panels aside from steel studs. So we can kind of go through and you'll see the iterations of panels and what's happened with Dryvit and panelization. You can see that in the next slide. So the early Tech 21, we owned the rights to a panel called Metalite and another called Federlite. And then we had franchised manufacturers for those panels. They were patented systems. When the patents ran out, we just supported the industry by providing detailed specifications, testing for the use of panels, and then grew into, when I came back, the last brochure on the right there is our Tech 21 brochure and our Tech 21 program. So,
and we have to do a shout out to the gentleman in the picture there. So that's Al Zabo.
Yeah. God bless Al. Al's been with us 42 years and he wore a younger man's clothes there for sure.
I think he's in another one too. We'll see him again.
This was that Donovan Manor project in Newport. We did this with Federlite panels. It was a brick building, senior housing. They forgot or didn't put or whatever, didn't put the ties in. And within a couple of years, the brick facade was failing. So we stripped the brick off. We put a girt system on the outside and attached Federlite panels to the exterior of the building. It was a great job, great. And we used a stone mist product. I'm not sure if there's a photo of it. I think there is of it and how it looks today. This was done in 1987, 88. So great looking job and still looks great today.
I love when we're able to do that. It's just show that longevity too, right? Because I think people are worried that, well, it's new and then how long is it going to last, right? So
yeah, I think
another thing, they didn't put insulation in behind the brick back then, and now we when we did this, there's 4 inches of EPS on the exterior of this building. So aside from getting a safe facelift, they also got a real energy upgrade on the building.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned durability, Marcy. That really, there's no reason the panel won't last the life of the building just with ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Go next. Yeah. So Tremco and Dryvit, we merged into, as Paul mentioned, Construction Products Group, and we decided that we were going to give the entire panel program an uplift. So we renamed it from Tech 21 to Modulite Prefabricated Solutions. And this is our current brochure for the program, along with the benefits of panelization listed in the brochure as one of the few items that we show. And there are many items that we show in there, I should say. And those are the key factors that people are so interested in panelization today.
And there's Maggie slimmed down.
Yeah, and that is one of our favorite projects.
Yeah,
in that picture.
We'll talk about that. I forget which section, but it is. I mean, that there.
Yeah, that'll be our next presentation on Federlite, which is just a great project that included a bunch of CPG products and really let prefabrication shine and enabled them to do this renovation in a speedy way and also save them a ton of money, which we'll talk about in the Federlite presentation.
And Mike, I just was going to say to you, as the the representative for the sales team, I mean, all these reasons, right? Is there any that stand out to you in particular that really resonates with you in your experience?
You know, the ones we really hear a lot of is everyone wants to speed up the time frame, make it faster, and use less labor. And I think that the panelization does both of those in a great way. You know, every time we're on a site, can you do it faster and with less labor? And this is really a product that does both of those really well.
Those are definitely things that resonate. No one, I'm sure no one's saying, I have more time.
Right, exactly.
Well, and the other thing, Marcy, that happens by the time you're in essence getting the building, you're always behind schedule and most of the time over budget.
Yeah.
So that's really where we shine, is by rescuing, if you will, often both the budget and the schedule.
Yeah, exactly. And oh my gosh, you're getting a better insulated structure. I mean, my goodness.
So under the Modulite program, we have 3 types of panels that we currently are representing. The Federlite is the one that I talked about before. And basically what that is, we utilize and we'll do a whole series on this program, so I won't get too deep into the weeds on it, but it takes EPS. We use an aluminum or a steel extrusion, lace that EPS together, and enables us to build larger panels that can be picked up and then either adhered or mechanically fastened to the exterior of the building. It's a great product for renovation as well as new construction. Very lightweight, only weighs about 2.5 pounds a square foot. And you can do insulation as thick as you want to go with it. And we have a multitude of finishes that give you any aesthetic you can look for with a panel.
I love that, the lightweight, because I think people assume they're heavy, right? And based on the way they're constructed, they're durable yet light. So
right. Yeah, when you're doing a renovation, it's a big factor because you have load limitations for that skin. And this light usually does not even affect what we want to do to the outside of the building. So big savings for them.
Marcy, we've seen examples of some very large panels, right?
Yeah.
That lightness lets you go to those larger sizes.
Yeah, absolutely. And accommodating even some very interesting construction needs, which I think we end today's presentation with. So we'll surprise you with that.
We also introduced this year Federlite M, which is a modified version of the Federlite system that is a completely mechanically applied system. So you can go out there and work at very cold temperatures. And we have all wind loading information for the contractors and architects and engineers. And basically the exact same construction. It just, we've introduced a mounting rail that gets attached to the building, and then the panel has an adapter on the back of the panel that receives that mounting rail. Basically the same thing, just a little easier operation.
Got it.
And we began a program called our Modulite Partner Fabricator program. We reached out and we have a number of fabricators across the country that are part of this team. These are like the creme de la creme of panel fabricators. And with that, we give them specialized warranties. The typical warranty under the Modulite program is 10 years. If you're a partner fabricator, you can offer your customer a 15-year warranty. So it's a big benefit to a building owner. We can go to the next, Mars.
Okay.
I got to come up with a signal, maybe 2 winks and a tilt of the head or something. So some of the benefits of our partner fabricator program: there are no geographic restrictions. There are no fees to become a partner fabricator. We don't charge royalties. We have a partner fabricator locator on our website, and our team will send out to you who the fabricators are. Mike has a full team of panel sales specialists across the country. We offer, as I mentioned, specialized warranties for partner fabricators. We'll do case studies for the fabricators on their projects. We have incentive programs that are being developed for them, training. We just assigned a new technical service manager to do all of our panel training, and we also have an engineering specialist to work with that for all of the testing. We'll have a fabricator peer group so we can share ideas and technology across the country, which I think is one of the biggest benefits to this, so that we can get our fabricators talking, so that somebody in Seattle knows what somebody in Pennsylvania is doing, and they can share ideas, and we can become more efficient and provide a better product to the industry.
Well, and I love that, Mike, your team will be able to do that, connecting the dots, right? Because it's probably not very often where it's fabricating is where the job is, right? So your team and you help connect the dots.
Right, we've got a great team across the United States and Canada to wrap all that together and pull it together for everyone.
Great. Adding to those feet on the street, right, Paul?
Exactly.
Without a doubt. So, and these are just a little bit more info on the extended term warranties, just to kind of show what it is.
Yeah, so if anyone has specific questions as it relates to the fabricator program or the warranties, we'll obviously give you the contact information from Mike Barker and his team so that they can walk you through this. We've revamped through the years our building envelope warranty, and as Rick mentioned, there's some specific exhibits for our fabricators, as well as, you know, if you're part of our program, some additional benefits.
Right. Okay, we can go on to the next.
It'd be great.
Okay, so today we'll talk about the Metalite panel, which is one of the panels in the Modulite program. The Metalite panel is kind of a unique design. It utilizes a modified B deck, and we can get into the fabrication and the bits and parts and components of it. It weighs about 4.5 pounds a square foot. Primarily was designed initially as a panel to be used to reclad metal buildings, pre-engineered metal buildings, Butler buildings, where they want to have a different look on the front of the building, maybe with a nicer aesthetic rather than just a plain old metal skin. And it's also used, it's a great product to use on screen wall applications, building, hiding trash dumpsters or things like that. And because you don't have to treat the back of the panel because it's done with a galvanized metal pan. So we can go to the next slide, Marcy, and begin to break down the fabrication and production of that panel. There's Al again. So as I said, you gotta love it. And so you can see the back of the panel is a galvanized decking. You don't see the foam of the system is mechanically attached to that decking, but with a slight modification to that profile, we create a channel that the fasteners go into, and so you don't have screws poking through the back of the panel. So it's aesthetically pleasing, and it's also not dangerous to have somebody rub up against it. Relatively lightweight, 4.5 pounds a square foot. Next, Mars. We have, for all of our panel systems, we have installation details, specifications, and fabrication and installation instructions. All of this information is available on the Modulite website. So you can go there and you can pull up all of the current details for that panel system. We can go to the next one and get into the components a little bit. We provide engineering load tables with all different spans. All of that information is available to any customer that wants it. We're very, we want to make sure that you have everything you need to be able to give to your customers so that they're comfortable with the performance of the product.
Well, and I think that's an interesting aspect. So obviously this isn't new to us, right? Or to either of you guys. So whatever question people have, we've probably been there, done that, have the right document to support.
Yeah, and also the case studies. I think a lot of times people want to say, take me to a building,
yeah,
let me see something that's been up for 20 or 30 years.
Exactly.
And sometimes we've got great case studies where we're perhaps on our second round of a refresh, if you
exactly will. Right. They may have wanted a new aesthetic,
yeah.
You know, something different.
Right. So this just shows the fastener patterns. There are some wind load restrictions with this design just because of using a mechanical fastener, but we can get pretty high. Thicker insulation gives you a little bit higher wind loads. These are standard types of mechanical fasteners used in the industry today. So we have all of the pattern and load information that goes along with that as well.
Super helpful.
All right, so the primary components of the system are the metal decking, and it's basically a modified B deck, as I said. And if you look on the left, you can see that little turn that comes back, and that's what, when the panels are laced together, they come in 1 foot wide profiles by whatever length, which would be the height of your panel, and that creates that channel. We use a J channel at the top and the bottom to lock everything together. And then we have the stiffener bars, which is nothing more than a 3x3 angle that gets screwed to the back of the panel. And that's your main attachment device for the panel to either a purlin or a floor line or whatever the building has to offer you. We have a couple of other really unique blind attachments for renovation type applications, which we can show that in another slide.
Well, and I think that's just it. It's really customizable too, right? So that's where, you know, Mike and his team, as well as you, Rick, will help out, right? Depending on what they're trying to get to, whether they're choosing this system or one of the systems, you guys can help direct them as well.
Right, right. So the panel as it stands alone doesn't have a fire thermal rating. So you wouldn't be able to use it if you were just to do like a warehouse building. You typically need a 15-minute barrier. So we can install a sheathing material to the face of the Metalite decking and then adhere the foam to it, and that would give you that 15-minute thermal barrier, so you wouldn't have to put drywall on the inside. Okay, just to show the differences in the panels that we have there. Next, Marcy. Okay, just a couple of different details. We have a complete set of details for all construction applications for this. The one on the right is a blind connection used over a solid substrate. So just really handy and easy to do. Just by putting up a series of clips or Z-clips on the back of the panel, you can install it and not have to have access from the back side of the panel when you're doing that project. Then the panel joints are caulked with a backer-rod and sealant, typical application, or potentially our will seal, which is another member of our CPG group. This is a compressible foam sealant system.
Yeah, we have even more options now, right? From the connections, and we know the connections is what we're going to have issues with. Right?
Yeah, I was just catching up with Mike Siebold yesterday extensively on will seal.
Very good. Another great addition to that portfolio, and I love here because now, Paul, Rick and Mike are gonna take us through assembly, because I think that's probably, I love the detail we've showed so far, but now we're really kind of bringing it to light. Right?
Yeah, the hands-on is always, you know, we underestimate how interesting it is and how valuable.
Yeah, showing how it's made.
Right. So here you just see the pan getting cut, the J channel getting cut, laid on a table, built to the correct size. This was actually, and we'll go through, you can go to the next slide, Marcin. We can show quickly how it's done. So the EPS is mechanically attached to the decking. In most cases, people will lay the panels down when they do their trowel work or their wet work. In this situation, they felt more comfortable working standing up as they normally would do on a wall. But you spot your fasteners and then come back over with a base coat and mesh, and then you put your finish on. So the panels are based there. You can put your aesthetic grooves in the EPS. You just have to make sure that you lay out your fasteners so they don't interfere with that. And so the panels are made up and then finishes put on, and then they get packaged, and we can show that on the next. We have a trailer there. The interesting thing about this job, and you can show the next slide, Marcy. We made these panels, we pulled the slide, I guess, sir. Okay, so just to go back, this job was a project in Texas, and they had precast concrete panels on the outside of the building. They set the building up, did the building, and then they went back to go and put their precast concrete screen wall on the roof to hide all the mechanicals. They realized that they had put finished asphalt in the parking lot, and when they were to go and put the crane out there to be able to lift these panels, these precast concrete panels, which weighed 65 pounds a square foot, they were going to have to spend a huge amount of money to put matting down to protect the parking lot if they could. So we made panels small enough to fit in the elevator. They took them up to the roof, hand carried them, and did it everything by hand, and were able to do this for a third of the price what they were going to wind up doing with the precast, which was a great save for everybody, and a great example and use and application of the Metalite panel.
That's awesome. That's great. And I think that's, once again, the customization that you're able to provide based on your experience and, you know, meeting those customer needs. I think we've included some of these pictures here just to show the versatility, and obviously, you know, through the years, different ways that we've utilized panelization.
This was a very old building that was retrofitted. They had some obviously staining and dirt going on, but the biggest factor was that it was glass and it was just a huge energy draw. So they put Metalite panels on it, and because of its lightweight, they were able to do that without making a lot of structural modifications to the building itself. And similar, I think, on the next one as well. Okay, this was a showboat. They had a shear wall that they wanted to have Metalite panels. This was in Atlantic City, done back in probably 88, 89, somewhere in that range. I don't even know if the showboat's still open. All the Atlantic City casinos closed. This is that roof screen panel, and it's Excel Energy's headquarters in Texas. So you can kind of get a feel for what the panel is, how it gets attached onto a purlin system. They have their structural steel tubes, which were designed to carry a 65 pound a square foot panel concrete, and you can see how huge they are. So certainly don't need that much steel, but gives you a good example of the panels in place and what they do. I think that about. This was a roof screen on a post office that we did recently in Maryland. Picked the panels up with a crane, but I think the nice part about it is that we used, and you can see we used our custom brick finish. So looking at it, it matches the brick, the actual clay brick down below, but it has a different aesthetic appeal, and it still only weighs 4.5 pounds a square foot. So a very easy solution, and provided a different aesthetic other than a traditional precast or stucco look.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of great examples there. Certainly appreciate you guys sharing all that information with us today. Super informative, and I know this is just part 1 of 3. So we'll continue to take you guys down that panelization path. So pretty cool.
I love the history,
yeah.
Right? And I'm not going to call Rick an old timer, but
you can. It's okay.
I always love knowing how things got started. So Rick, I really appreciate you taking us back in time.
Yeah, and how ironic, Mike, that you started your career in a similar way, in the modular space. So you've definitely seen the benefits of it. So we're definitely excited about it. So as I mentioned, this is just part 1 of 3. Any final words you guys want to share with our audience before we close this broadcast?
I'll let Mike go ahead and talk about how people can reach out to his sales team, and seeing as how I talk an awful lot, take a break.
Absolutely. So with the team, we actually have, you can reach out to any of the Tremco CPG technical representatives, and they can get you in touch with one of the offsite teams to get us to that. And then also on the website, on the Modulite website, we have the Find the Fabricator button to help get everybody in the right place and get the information to them when they need it. So through both of those ways are great ways to get a hold of us.
I'll share in the chat both of those, the Finder and as well as just, and I loved it, Mike, just how you put it. If you already are working with a Tremco representative, you're doing the same thing you've been doing. They will then connect you with Mike and one of his team members. So it's, utilizing your existing resource, but just one more way, in a big way that we can help on your construction project.
One other thing I want to point out that I think is really, really key with this whole program, we mentioned that we use Tremco Sealants, we use Will Seal, we use Dryvit. One of the huge benefits for a building owner is that you have one point of contact. You can reach out to a Tremco representative, and we can resolve and answer your technical questions for a whole exterior of a building. And I don't think there's any other manufacturer in the industry today that can offer you that service. If you have a warranty issue, you would reach out to one of them, and you don't get pushed around, oh, it's that guy's problem, it's this guy's problem. You deal with that one source, which I think is an absolute huge benefit to our program.
Yeah, goes back to that one hand to shake, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, we had a customer on once, and he said he loved it because he had everything he needed on one flash drive from one manufacturer, right? So it was one point of contact there. And it's great, guys, because this is not a project that is going to happen in 30 days or even 6 months, right? These are projects that we partner with that individual, and I know you guys have done that and will continue to do that and have had years of experience doing just that. So great partners in performance on your project for sure. So, okay. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rick and Mike. Everyone, stay tuned for next Friday when we'll feature part 2 of panelization. We look forward to answering your questions, following up with you on all your needs, and we're going to bring you a couple more of the options that you have as it relates to the Modulite systems that Tremco can provide you. So thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Be well.